You are in the middle of a riot. It's chaotic, loud, and people are running in every direction. Suddenly, a stranger sprints toward you, visibly agitated, holding what looks like a handgun. You panic. You pull the trigger. But when the smoke clears, you realize the truth. That object in their hand was a cell phone. The lethal threat didn't actually exist outside your own head. In the 8th century, the philosopher Sri Sankara identified this specific state of delusion as pratibhasika, or subjective reality. It is the lowest tier of human experience, a reality constructed entirely out of imagination and error. Sankara explained this using a classic metaphor. Imagine walking into a dark room and mistaking a piece of rope for a deadly snake. The object is completely harmless, but your mind projects a lethal threat onto it anyway. If poor lighting and a spike in heart rate can so thoroughly manipulate your perception, the idea that you acted as a rational, freely choosing agent in that split second falls apart. To figure out why you actually pulled that trigger, we have to look past the illusion of the immediate moment and trace the physical chain of events that controlled your finger. 1 second prior, your amygdala processes the stranger and instantly fires a warning signal, bypassing your slower frontal cortex. Step back a few days. Exhaustion floods your blood with stress hormones. This chemical wash makes your amygdala so hypersensitive, it interprets neutral faces as hostile. Step back even further, decades or millennia. Childhood trauma physically alters the brain structure, making it permanently reactive. And if your ancestors survived in brutal environments, they developed cultures of retributive violence that encoded epigenetic predispositions straight into your DNA. Pulling that trigger was never a conscious choice. It was the unavoidable climax of millions of years of evolutionary momentum, cultural history, and environmental conditioning converging on a single millisecond. Sankara categorized this rigid physical plane of existence as vyavaharika, empirical reality. It is the shared material world we navigate every day. In this domain, the strict law of cause and effect governs every action. Operating at this level, the biologist Robert Sapolsky's view of human beings as deeply conditioned biological machines running on pre-written code is entirely accurate. This presents a terrifying trap. If a human being is strictly the sum of their neurochemistry and ancestral history, then humanity is locked into its evolutionary programming, doomed to repeat its violent cycles indefinitely. But the historical record contains specific, jarring moments where humans behave as if that rigid biological scripting has simply vanished. During the Christmas truce of 1914, British and German soldiers climbed out of their trenches to bury their dead together. In a few hours, the evolutionary categories of us versus them were replaced by addresses exchanged and soccer matches played in no man's land. Decades later, during the My Lai massacre, an American helicopter pilot named Hugh Thompson landed his gunship between fleeing Vietnamese civilians and his own fellow soldiers. He trained his machine guns on fellow Americans to stop the massacre, ignoring every cultural signal that usually defines a soldier's loyalty. If the neurons and genes in these moments were identical to the ones that fired the trigger in the riot, then biology alone cannot account for this sudden pivot toward compassion. These outliers suggest our biological programming is a system that can be overridden when a person shifts how they perceive their own identity. Sapolsky argues that studying these moments is as important as studying the violence, because they show the brain's capacity to reorganize its allegiances in a single heartbeat. Thousands of years ago, a Vedic sage named Ashtavakra lived as the embodiment of cause and effect. Born with 8 physical deformities, his very shape was dictated by the harsh mechanics of the material world. He realized that while his body was bound by the laws of Vyavarika, the awareness observing those deformities remained untouched by them. This is the realm of paramarthika, absolute reality. In this state, the observer is a fixed, pristine point of awareness, standing apart from the rotating layers of time and neurochemistry that surround it. The Ashtavakra Gita presents freedom as an innate starting point rather than a distant goal. It is realized the moment a person identifies as the unconditioned witness instead of the biological machine. While our biology and history explain our impulses, True freedom begins when we recognize that our identity exists as the pure awareness watching the machine run.